We began the program with this tonight. We've been trying very hard to get a response from Southern Response. This is the class action by a group of Southern Response policyholders. It can go ahead after the Court of Appeal rejected an attempt by the government-owned insurer to throw it out. All of this has happened this afternoon. Southern Response was set up following the February 2011 quake when failed insurer AMI said it didn't have enough money to cover its liability. In Christchurch, the company argued the class action claimants had outlined a common issue and the class action should cease. Sorry, hadn't outlined a common issue. So a group of Southern Response claimants tried to take a class action. Southern Response said, no, it ain't a class action. It's disparate claims joined together for convenience. The Court of Appeal has overruled that and said effectively the class action can proceed. But the decision released this afternoon says the remaining 26 policyholders whose claims still haven't been settled can go ahead. Southern Response declined again to be interviewed. We find it very, very, very difficult to get a response from Southern Response. We've got to talk to people really hard for a branch of the government. I don't know why they make it so hard. We've got a response from them, an emailed response. A spokesperson for Southern Response, who incredibly is not named, said there are a number of issues that the Court of Appeal decision covers which Southern Response needs to work its way through as it considers its options. They declined to be interviewed. The new Minister for Greater Christchurch Regeneration, Megan Wood, said she needs time to review the decision before speaking. The lawyer leading the class action is Grant Cameron. He joins us now live on the phone. How are you, Grant?
Very good, thank you, John.
You keep winning the right to take what is effectively class actions in Christchurch, but you have to try incredibly hard to do so. And so you start off, you end up in the High Court, you end up in the Appeal Court. What do you think is going to happen here? Do you think Southern Response are now going to come to the party and deal with your group of claimants?
My personal belief is that it will. I think the Court of Appeal decision is very clear. It accords very much with previous Supreme Court guidance on these issues. And I do think the change of government will have a big effect. Megan Woods is thoroughly familiar with the pain and strain faced by people in Christchurch, and I think they'll be concerned to get this matter resolved.
Why has it taken so long? Why have Southern Response, and also in your Quake Outcasts case, why have the people you have been taking as high as, in one case, the Supreme Court, been so reluctant to deal with the class action? Now, Southern Response in their statement say, hey, we've been dealing with the individual claimants from within the class action. In other words, they are settling just very, very slowly. If they're prepared to deal with individuals, why aren't they prepared to deal with a group?
I think the problem with a group is that ultimately, if you permit the action to go ahead, then patterns of conduct will come out which might be of greater embarrassment to the defendant. And it's always easier with large defendants, or so it's supposed, to drag things out, delay, deny, defend, and hopefully the plaintiffs might give up, run out of money and motivation, just simply go away.
Right, because if they settle individually, albeit that the settlements have been protracted to the extent of many years, there is sorts of privacy and silence attached to that. What patterns do you think Southern Response, and this is your supposition, although you're the lawyer taking the case, do you think Southern Response are worried about being revealed?
I think the Court of Appeal has covered these issues pretty well in its judgment, and it's talking about the ability of this group to actually prove the fundamental allegation, and that is that there's been a deliberate strategy by this insurer to minimise policyholders' claims through applying various tactics. And although the defendants sort of argued that that wasn't possible, the Court of Appeals accepted that it would be if policyholders, and enough of them, got up and explained how their cases have been mismanaged. In other words, the pattern of alleged misconduct was then out in the open.
You started with 47 claimants, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
How many have you got left?
26.
And so the others have all settled as this was proceeding?
Yes, and of course the issue then becomes, well, at some stage people do run out of motivation or their circumstances change. If you have somebody you suddenly come home one evening and find that your spouse has cancer, then you've got much more important issues to deal with than the issue regarding the insurer. So other factors do come into play, and sometimes that's an advantage to a defendant who's dragging things out.
What's your take on all of this? Gosh, you and I have been discussing this stuff for a very long time now. Southern Response is a branch of the government. It was, of course, part of AMI. And in good faith, the government said, OK, we're not going to leave these people without settlements because AMI is unable to pay. But so that was a really promising beginning. And AMI pointed out, Southern Response pointed out that since the original proposed action has started in April 2015, they've successfully settled 2,945 other claims. But what's your take on their opposition to this class action, which has been really, really hard fought?
Well, I think the general pattern has been that the insurer in this case has been producing figures using its so-called experts that are well below, and in many cases 50% below, what independent experts are telling the policyholders. So if we use a hypothetical example of the $500,000 offer from the insurer to finalise your insurance claim, but the policyholder finds with independent parties that it could be $1 million or more, then the question has to be asked, why should they take the $500,000, particularly when their house is really their life capital, their life equity. So the problem then faced for the poor old policyholder is whether or not they can take a large insurer to court. And the answer is uniformly no. And so the only way forward is to actually band together, cooperate, and bring a class action.
What was your relationship with Jerry Brownlee like? He was on the other side of the Outcasts appeal, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I've always found him a very amicable, happy chappy, but I think he's been terribly obstructive in terms of the decisions that had to be made in this particular matter.
OK, so if he's been terribly instructed, will the new Minister, Megan Woods, be receiving the same instructions, or are you anticipating a change in management?
We would anticipate a change. I think there is a sort of a moot point as to whether officials who are advising the previous government will be of the same mode and mind to advise the new minister in the same fashion. It seems that the last government was pretty focused on the fiscal outcomes rather than what might be properly due to people in terms of their policies. Now, perhaps there was a decision there to be made in terms of taxpayers' interests, but certainly the Labor Party was fully informed of all the issues in terms of Christchurch, and of all people, Megan Woods is probably better informed than most.
Grant Cameron, who is the lawyer taking this class action, it's a really fascinating judgment. You can read it, and it only came out this afternoon, so I haven't read it in full, on the court's website. They run a good website with cases of public interest published there in full. It is available now. So this is Southern Response Earthquake Services Limited versus Southern Response Unresolved Claims Group, who Grant Cameron was representing. All of this happened this afternoon. No one from Southern Response available to appear on the program tonight, although as a rule we do have more luck getting interviews with Elvis.